Hello everyone! Today we will open up something that probably most of the Magic community has forgotten about. Yeah, the Ravnica Guild Kits. I have done a video on the first 5 decks, and these are the second 5 decks. The sequel, if you will. So we start off with the Azorius deck, the Law Mages, Guild, etc, etc. Keepers of the Peace. Right, let's open it up and see what we get inside. So, first of all, got a deck box, just like the previous one. This 60 card deck fits in here, sleeved and all. That's a good thing. We have a sticker with the Azorius logo on it. And yeah, this is nice. A whole pamphlet thingy of Azorius with the deck list over here. And there we go. The Azorius Senate. Standards of behavior for all Azorius representatives. Obey all applicable laws, codes and regulations. If you are unsure of what those might be in a given situation, learn them. And do not proceed until you have established a correct course of action. It is, in fact, much better to ask for permission than forgiveness. To be Azorius is to serve as an exemplary model of moral conduct for your fellow citizens. Avoid delinquent behaviors such as appropriating the property of others, performing illicit spellcraft, even for good reason, gallivanting about with unleashed pets, traveling through restricted areas without a writ of passage, or committing violence outside approved instances of self-defense. Always keep your uniform pressed and your armor polished in accordance with Regulation 654.2, Part 87, Section 2b. An unkempt appearance erodes your authority. Should you witness a criminal act, signal the Sky Hussars immediately and begin documenting occurrences and the details of the crime scene. If possible, preserve any important evidence yourself. Do not leave this task to the Boros patrollers. Now then, we have something about learn the laws, codes and regulations. Here, learn is defined as the methodical, efficient process of both sourcing and assimilating new information in an intentional and comprehensive manner, regardless of any perceived limitation in the availability, legibility, or significance of said information. Then we have number 2, self-defense. List is not comprehensive. New Azorius members should consult processes and procedures, implements and accoutrements of volumes 1 to 7 for a full catalogue of relevant behavior regulations. And then about the evidence, our allies in the Boros Legion are valorous soldiers and valuable defenders of the law who do an admirable job of maintaining the order on which our society depends. However, their methods tend toward aggression and are not well suited to the proper collection, registration, and transportation of delicate evidentiary materials. Well, that's that. That is what it means to be Azorius. Now then, what else is in the box? We have, of course, an Azorius spin down. Beautiful blue and white with the Azorius logo on it. We have a pin with the Azorius logo. Nice one. And of course, the deck itself. And we start off with one card, which is our front card, Isperia, the Supreme Judge. She is 6 mana for a 6/4 flying. And whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, you may draw a card. Right. And then the deck itself, let me see here. Right, so we start off with the Pride of the Clouds. For 2 we have a 1/1 flying. Pride of the Clouds gets +1/+1 for each other creature with flying on the battlefield. Forecast for 4. Reveal Pride of the Clouds from your hand. Create a 1/1 white and blue bird creature token with flying. Then we have the Sphinx of Foresight. 4 is a 4/4 flying, and you may reveal this card from your beginning hand. If you do, scry 3 at the beginning of your first upkeep. And normally he has, at the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1. Lavinia of the 10th, for 5, it's a 4/4 protection from red. When she enters the battlefield, detain each non-land permanent your opponents control with converted mana cost 4 or less. And that means that they can't attack or block, and their activated abilities can't be activated for a turn. Windreaver, for 5, it's a 1/3 flying, and then for 1 white, it either gets Vigilance or +0/+1 until end of turn. And for blue, you can switch power and toughness or return it to its owner's hand. Isperia the Inscrutable, for 5, we get a 3/6 flying, and whenever she deals combat damage to a player, choose a card name. That player reveals their hand. If a card with a chosen name is revealed this way, search your library for a creature card with flying, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Archon of the Triumvirate. For 7, a 4/5 flying, and when it attacks, detain up to 2 target non-land permanents your opponents control. Unbreakable Formation, for 3, it's an instant. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. And then it has an addendum. If you cast this spell during your main phase, put a +1/+1 counter on each of those creatures, and they gain vigilance until end of turn. Detention Sphere, awesome card. It's an enchantment for 3, and when it enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-land permanent not named Detention Sphere, and all other permanents with the same name as that permanent. When Detention Sphere leaves the battlefield, return the exiled cards to the battlefield under their owner's control. Then we have a Render Silent, also a nice card to have. For 3, it's an instant counter target spell. Its controller can't cast spells this turn. Dovescape, oh, this card used to be so good back in the days. Is it still? I don't know. It's an enchantment for 6. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, counter that spell. That player creates X 1/1 white and blue bird creature tokens with flying, where X is the spell's converted mana cost. Cool. Sphinx's Revelation. For 3 and X, instant you gain X life and draw X cards. This used to be an all-star way back in the days of Return to Ravnica standard. Right, we have Warrant and Warden. Warrant is for 2, an instant, put target attacking or blocking creature on top of its owner's library. And Warden for 5 is a sorcery where you can create a 4/4 white and blue Sphinx creature token with flying and vigilance. Then we have the tokens here. We have birds, a lot of the birds, and on the back we have Thopter, and of course the Sphinx. Now for the rest, Judge's Familiar. For 1, it's a 1/1 flying, and you sacrifice it to counter an instant or sorcery, unless its controller pays 1. I'll get 2 of those. Azorius Guildmage. For 2, it's a 2/2 with 2 abilities. The first one is for 3, tap target creature, that's the white one, and the other one for 3, the blue one, counter target activated ability. Azorius Herald. For 3, it's a 2/1. Can't be blocked, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life. When it enters the battlefield, you have to sacrifice it unless blue was spent to cast it. Right, so you can use it either for the life or just for the creature as well. Stoic Ephemera. For 3, it's a 5/5 defender flying, and when it blocks, sacrifice it at end of combat. Cool. Court Hussar. For 3, it's a 1/3 vigilance, and when it enters the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of your library. Then put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of the library in any order. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless white was spent to cast it. Same story as the one before. Hover Barrier. For 3, it's a 0/6 defender flying. Pretty handy to have. Leif Sky Knight for 3. It's a 3/1 flying, and when it enters the battlefield, detain target non-land permanent an opponent controls. Spirit of the Spires for 4. It's a 2/4 flying. Other creatures you control with flying get +0/+1. Azorius Justiciar for 4. It's a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, detain up to 2 target creatures your opponents control. Skymark Rock for 4. It's a 3/3 flying. When it attacks, you may return target creature defending player controls with toughness 2 or less to its owner's hands. Sphinx of New Prav for 4 is a 4/3 flying, vigilance, and spells your opponents cast at target. Sphinx of New Prav costs 2 more to cast. Windstorm Drake for 5. It's a 3/3 flying, and other creatures with flying get +1/+0. So you see this deck revolves around a lot of the flying stuff. Sky Hussar, again a flying creature. For 5, it's a 4/3. When it enters the battlefield, untap all creatures you control. And then it has forecast. Tap 2, untap white and or blue creatures you control. Reveal Sky Hussar from your hand, then draw a card. Then we have an Azorius Chancery, which is obviously the bounce lands that each of the decks has. Azorius Guildgate, Guildgates, also for the colors. They are appropriate for in the decks. And of course, the Azorius lands. Look at that. I still love the background on the planes here, on the mana symbols of all of these. So you get 8, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it's the same in the previous decks, also 8. And then the islands, also 8. Sky Tether for 1. It's an aura enchant creature. Enchant creature has defender and loses flying. Azorius Signet, the signet for this deck, ×2. Summary Judgment for 2. It's an instant that deals 3 damage to target tapped creature. Addendum, if you cast this spell during the main phase, it deals 5 damage instead. Azorius Charm. There's also always a charm in each deck. And this one reads, for 2, it's an instant, choose 1. Creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn, or you can draw a card, or you can put target attacking or blocking creature on top of its owner's library. Then we have a Dramatic Rescue for 2, it's an instant. Return target creature to its owner's hand, you gain 2 life. And Azorius Key Rune for 3, it's an artifact that taps for blue or white. And for 2, one of each, it becomes a 2/2 white and blue bird artifact creature with flying until end of turn. Right, then we have a Sphinx's Insight for 4. It's an instant, draw 2 cards, and addendum. If you cast it during your main phase, you gain 2 life. And then we have a Dispose and Deploy, which is our final card here. Dispose for 2 mana an instant, tap target creature, draw a card, and Deploy for 4. It's also an instant. Create 2 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature tokens with flying. Then you gain 1 life for each creature you control. Well, there you have it. A lot of detaining, flying around, and stuff like that. I like it. I really do. I think it's really on theme here with Azorius. So, yeah, that's that. Thank you all for watching, and see you guys in the next video tomorrow with another one of the guilds. Bye-bye.